And we are live, ladies and gents. Welcome back to another video. For those that don't know me, my name is Abdul. And as usual, my presentation is I'm just a random guy in the internet teaching about what I'm currently doing to be able to afford the G-Wagon, maybe a couple G-Wagons, and a boat, and a compound. Enough about me and my dreams. Let's talk about perhaps why you're interested in watching this video. So for those that have a very low attention span, I'll give you a quick breakdown of how it's going to be. I don't have timestamps yet, but I will evolve my videos to eventually have timestamps. So I'm going to talk about what I currently did. So this is an HR automation for businesses in the care industry in the United Kingdom, or it can be anywhere. And also a quick breakdown on how this automation turned out to be. I did an automation before that, and there is a video on my YouTube channel around October, November time. This is the improvement part 2. I'm going to talk a little bit about the AI industry, a little bit about people like, I don't want to say like me, but people like me following the gurus online on sell AI automations to the type of businesses. And if you don't want to listen to all this nonsense, you can skip through the videos and get at least halfway through. This is where I'm actually going to demonstrate how this automation works and perhaps why it might be useful to you. Perfect. Enough about the intro. Let's go straight to the main topic, which is AI automation. Fine. So if you're like me, just a random guy in the internet, and you listen to the so-called gurus, they tell you to sell HR automations to real estate and then, typical niches. The advice is fair. However, you need to do a little bit more research to understand take the advice, take what's currently working, and then apply it to one of those niches that nobody knows about. Care. How did I end up in care? So I worked with a care company around October time, and I had a look at how they onboarded candidates. And I said, there is so much potential, you wouldn't believe it. And care is one of those industries where unless you had a look behind the scenes, you will never know how much money they make. It's unbelievable. It's unthinkable. In business, there's a thing called TAM, your total addressable market. And care is one of those industries where you will never run out of clients. I know it's hard to say, but every day that goes by, somebody turns 70, somebody turns 75, and they need care. So that's where you need care providers. And then number 2, if you follow what they tell you in the industry, you look at the online presence and then see what they're missing out, then use AI to reach out to them, use AI to create your service delivery. The advice is fair. However, if I was to use AI right now, Claude, and I'd be like, Claude, you want to reach out to people in the care industry. I had a look around. I saw these people. They had a very crappy website. You tell them some website or marketing services. Is not going to be as efficient as if you try to sell them an HR automation. Now, let me tell you why. Because when you get to understand, you realize that the way they get clientele is not via online presence. The online presence does not directly dictate how much money they're making, because most of these care companies have contracts with the NHS, contracts with councils, and then a little bit of the portion comes from privates. So on the private side, that's where they need a little bit of marketing. So if I was to reach out and say, you can get you some marketing, whatever, I can better your website, I can do some posts for you to post on Instagram and Facebook, it will work, it's good. But that's about 10 to 20% max of how much, where the revenue is coming from there. So if you reach out, they'll be like, yeah, we need this. We already got a contract with the NHS. Why would we bother about paying this guy on a monthly basis for some social media post? That's not a thing. But if you reach out, they'll be like, I know what you guys are missing. And I know how to fast forward your business. And I know how to save you about 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 to 100 hours every single week. Because HR is extremely tedious. Now, let's actually follow the presentation. I normally freestyle, but got this, it looks nice, created on an AI. But the care industry is not like a standard industry. It's one of those regulated industry. It's like law. It's regulated. There's a bunch of small things you can't do or you can do, or you need to have this and be able to have that. You can't just wake up like a warehouse and just hire people. All they need is like 2 eyes, 2 arms. They be able to talk decent English and do like courses on manual handling. Then they're ready to go. Care is not like that. Regulated industry. So it's regulated by CQC, Home Office, all this compliance, non-stuff. And then you can't just have a carer go into the field before you do a bunch of checks, identity, DBS checks, check, make sure they wasn't in prison, make sure you have references, and all this adds up on the recruitment pipeline. So the recruitment between a warehouse, by the time you apply to a warehouse to get the job, maybe a week. Care, it can go between 2 to 3 weeks. You can apply for the DBS today, and then the DBS services, they get back to you like weeks later. But you can't make them start working until you get a DBS back. So it's one of those things. And also care is recession proof. As I said 25 seconds ago, every day that goes by, new service users are needed because everybody gets old. So it's one of those. You will never run out leads. They will never run out leads. That means they will always need carers. They will always need to onboard, especially if they're trying to increase their monthly revenue. Well, revenue is a buzzword. Increase profit. We're not here for revenue. We're here for profit. A bunch of revenue with low profit margin doesn't mean anything. It's just an ego stroke. And the competition is actually low, because I did some research and I found out that about maybe 70, this is my thinking, about 75% of care companies, they're still doing pen on paper. They know zero about automation. They know zero about AI. They heard about it, but they don't know how this can be implemented into their industry or be implemented into the business directly to actually make them skyrocket. And here I come, and here I am, because since I'm a genius and I look at things throughout, I came up with this. This didn't start now, it started in October. So what I did in October was a simplified version of what I currently have right now. Let me give you a breakdown of how onboarding currently looks like for the care company. If I'm on Indeed and I'm looking for a care job, I see the company and apply for the job on Indeed, and then they book me for an interview. The manual side will be, okay, the HR officer is looking through Indeed, the shortlisting. If you have a pre-screening form, good. At least you can pre-screen and be like, let me not just waste 20 minutes to interview somebody who has zero experience and all the life they just did warehouse, and now they're trying to get into care. Can they be trained? Yes. Is it ideal? No. You want somebody with experience, so you avoid the messing about and you getting into a bunch of trouble because they administrated the wrong medication to the service user. This is how it looks like. Then from the moment they come into the interview, be like, okay, candidate is ready to go. You need to send them an offer letter. By the time they sign, you need to request all the documentation, driving license, passport, share code. If you're not British, that's where all that non-step comes in. Do you need sponsorship? Do you have your BRP? Are you a refugee? There's a bunch of stuff. Once you get it, do you have a DBS? Is it on update service? So do you have the paper version? If they have the paper version, then you need to put them on update service. Then you apply for the DBS, and then you wait for the DBS to come back. In the meantime, you need to allocate them courses. You need to allocate them policies if you have those. You need to send out references. You see how much stuff I'm talking about? So imagine this is the whole process just for one candidate. Then you need to send a bunch of DocuSigns. You need to get them to come in. You need to verify the document in person. You need to scan it. And then finally, after they sign the contract, the job is not done. You still have a bunch of stuff in the background that happen at the same time. So imagine all this for one carer to onboard. And then you have one at stage number 3. Then you have one that just started yesterday. Then you have one that needs to start. You have an interview that needs to come in. You can have an army of HR officers. But why would you need an army when you can have special forces? This is my new motto now. There is no need for a huge army when you can have special forces. They can do the job at the craziest and the fastest level. Back then, when Henry Ford said, want to create the Ford Model T and a mass produce it, those who were using horses, they looked at him, it's like, this guy's a madman. And indeed he was, until he made it work out. And all of a sudden, all the horses just disappeared. So there is this buzz, it's not a buzzword, it's like a buzz sentence of AI is going to take all the jobs. I have a different philosophy about it. It's true and false. It's a 50-50, depending on which side of the spectrum you are. So in finance, let's say I'm the finance guy for a huge conglomerate like Starbucks, for example. You need somebody to do account receivable, somebody to do account payable, somebody to manage your QuickBooks, somebody to do year-end accounts, somebody to do the monthly reconciliation. You need a chartered accountant to oversee all these. You need like a big manager that oversees all these different departments. You need somebody to come in for payroll, somebody to audit. You see how many people you need? About 20,000 accountants. But imagine if you can get like 1-2 accountants, chartered, professional, they've been there for a long time. They know all the ins and outs. You don't need to know 100%. A good 80% of the industry or what you're trying to do is enough, in my opinion. 100 is better, but 80 you can save yourself. And they have a cloud subscription, no cap. You can max out cloud anytime, anywhere. You'll be fine. You can shave off 80% of the workforce and still be fine. Now, those who were unable to implement AI are those that will get fired because they don't need it. It's just extra overhead cuts. But those that know how to use AI to make the job faster and more efficient are those that are going to save themselves. Same thing for the horses, they stayed behind. And those that decided to adopt the cars, they went ahead. Easy. This is my philosophy. And also in life, if you want to make it, you just simply look at where the big companies are putting the money in. Like spending billions on AI. Amazon is spending billions. Talking about the AI bubble, that's a story for a different day. But too much of a small fish to be discussing all this. I simply go where the direction, where they're going. I'm just following. I don't think those actually have the ability to impact what they're dictating. So we simply follow. The rules are set. Let's just follow what they're going. If all of a sudden Google switching and say, you're not going to invest in AI anymore, let's invest in gold mines. I will get myself a shovel and I will start shoveling because this is the direction they're going. So this is where the money is. The money is in AI, so AI is inevitable. It's better to adopt it now and then be ahead of the curve before everybody realizes it's too late. Then be with everybody that realize it's too late. And look at those that adopted it, and it just went like this, like because the curve between the average and those that adopted it, it goes like this, skyrocketing. Nice. So now that gave you a quick breakdown of how onboarding looked like when I worked for this when I worked with this company for the second automation now. I think this is one of my best creations up to date. I'm actually proud of my work. I wish I could show you guys the behind the scenes, but since there's live data on it, I cannot. Confidentiality, and then just a bunch of compliance and then GDPR, right? But in one of the following videos, I'll make like a dummy account and be able to create this system. I'll simply duplicate it and then show you guys how it actually works out. So the real cost of doing it manually, you need to look at things. Time is money and money is time. This is another one of my philosophy. They're both interconnected. It's the same thing. If you have a bunch of money, you can save time because you can pay somebody to do it. But if you don't have money, you have time. You need to do it with your time because you ain't got money to do it. So it's the same thing. So not implementing AI into onboarding candidates is you having to hire multiple HR guys, then your HR team being pissed because they're not able to figure out at what stage somebody's in the pipeline, wrong KPIs, and especially, well, let me highlight on the wrong KPIs. If you don't have numbers, you're not able to forecast what's going to happen. Another example. If you're a care company, you're making $500,000 turnover every single month, $500,000 revenue, and you have 200 carers. Now you're planning in the next 6 months to double up your revenue to 1 million. So what does that mean? Just by straight line, you will need double up for the workforce. You need like 400. But if you don't know how long it takes you to recruit one carer from start to end until they're able to actually deliver services, you will never be able to forecast how long it'll take you to even hit that mark, right? And if you're not able to do this, it's because all your numbers are screwed up and you don't know where the gaps in your processes are. It costs you a bunch of time. I was lost, then the candidates. Most candidates end up dropping out because they don't get reached out on time, or they simply don't get enough feedback based on, like, if you apply today and the next time they text you like 2 weeks after, be like, oh, we just managed to submit your DBS on, are you still interested in the job role? You'll be like, pound sand, let me just bounce. Next company. And that's where they end up in warehouses. Or a company that's implementing AI, be like, okay, I start on board with this guy. 3 days later, everything was almost done. I'm just waiting for reference in the DBS. Then I'm out. Boom. Next. Now, here we go to the actual source of the video. What is it that I've built? The whole process looked like the way I described it. You apply for Indeed, then you get pre-screening form. And then after that, after you get pre-screened, you come in for the online interview, for the face-to-face interview, sorry. You get a bunch of DocuSign sent. And highlight. I know most don't even know what DocuSign is. Most of them still do pen and paper. In 2026 is incredible. So this is why I'm saying this industry is so underrated. Nobody ever actually looked at it because it's one of those boring industries where you don't think there's money, but the money is huge, huge. Going back to what I was saying, then you get sent a DocuSign, then you get sent an email asking you for the picture of your passport and all that stuff. Then you get sent this, then you get sent that, then you need to follow up with them, be like, how far are we? That's how it looked like. So for me to be able to even automate all this, and I had to look at it from the bottom up. Most people get the mistake of trying to automate stuff from the top down. That's why if you work with developers, it's extremely hard because, like, if you're intermediary between the kind of developer that's going to build up this, you're always going to have gaps because the developer is not able to see what the client sees, and you'll not be able to see unless you've actually been in the industry. So if you're trying to do it from top down, it will never work because you have an idea of what you're trying to create, but you don't fully know because you haven't experienced it and you haven't been through it. Me, I had the opportunity to actually see everything. Took a little bit of days. I seen everything and how it operated, so I was able to build it from the top down, from the top up. So what we have is a custom dashboard that lives, when it's encrypted, so everything is fine. Login details, you come in, 2-factor verification, and then you're able to access the dashboard. And on the dashboard, you start by simply creating a client profile. So they come in for the interview and they say Abdul was here for an interview. The interview was fine. Let's offer him a job position. You press a button and the DocuSign fires, and then it sends me an offer letter. By the time I send the offer letter, everything else just rolls out in the background automatically. So I'll get notification saying that my offer letter was signed, and I get a copy of it. Then I get an email with a form link. So this is number 2, form link, because it's way more cleaner. Instead of having to send documentation via email and then keep doing that chain all over and over again, they simply submit it on a custom link, and the link takes the information and it stores it in the file they created automatically. And it custom labels everything. Because when CQC comes, they never tell you how they want you to capture the data and do your compliance. They simply want to know how you're doing it and if it makes sense, right? So if you show them, we have this customs, and every passport is 001, every CV is 002. Every right to work check is 003. Every DBS is 004. Every reference is 005. And then you can just show them, listen, this is the cleanest. So if you want to check all our 175 workers, look, 005, and you have everything you need. Scroll them for 101. And it looks way more professional. They'll be like, ah, yeah, these guys, they know what I'm talking about. Give them a better rating. Boom, bam. So let's go back to what I was saying. So they have the custom link. On the custom link, they submit everything. They also submit the references, and everything gets stored in a custom dashboard. So at any point, HR can simply come in, log in with the details, and then see at what stage somebody is. Just on a percentage between 1 and 100. And they can see what's going on, what's outstanding, and what's currently waiting for to come back. We also have a compliance tracking. Tracking, this is for another video, but in simple terms, is simply after enrollment. So after they sign the contract, you need to obviously make sure that you know when the courses are expiring, when they're due for renewal, when you need to do your driving license check again, when you need to do your right to work check again, when you need to make sure you know when the passports are about to expire. So all that is on a different size. But let's just focus on the recruitment. Every single form is on DocuSign, and every single form is custom and attached to the live dashboard. So on the dashboard at any time, you can simply press a button on, I want you to send this, they receive that. So you don't have to go through different portals or different means to be able to see what is going on. Everything is centralized into one simple digital place. So what this company currently have, so you apply, you come in, offer letter sent, you receive the offer letter, then you get a link to upload all your documentation, they get uploaded. Then from there, another DocuSign comes in for your onboarding document. You fill that up. It's like 30 pages. Once you're done with the 30 pages, you get allocated your courses. In the meantime, you get allocated policies. Then depends on how every company has their different styles, right? So I'm telling you how this is currently working out. Reference is the same thing. So as soon as they fill out the reference form, same way from the dashboard, you click on send professional reference number 1, send professional reference number 3, and it goes out directly on DocuSign. This is where automations and automating depending on how the company is currently using it. I know some companies use DocuSign, some other companies just send an email, some other companies have the custom, like they have a custom, not a website, like a custom funnel where the link is sent to them and then they can like apply for the reference and just give it back and everything. But all these can be automated depending on how you're currently operating. And then all the files, when anything is signed up from that candidate, it goes back straight into the file. And at an HR level, now you're going from handling all these one thing one-on-one into simply coming in, looking at the dashboard, seeing at what stage this candidate is, looking at where the bottleneck is, and then fixing it manually. So how I compare this automation? This automation is like driving a Tesla, right? Or automations in general, AI in general, the industry in general. AI is not perfect because when you drive a Tesla on autopilot, right? You're not supposed to sleep on the wheel. You still need to do that 5% or perhaps 0.01%, which you just squeeze the steering wheel here and there, just to remind you that you're still looking at the road. And then look at the road actually, because the car ain't perfect. You can see, overtake automatically, but sometimes, you'll be able to see the pothole. Only you with a human eye can see the pothole. Or it might miss a turn because, I don't know, AI, right? Same thing from here. Your job is not to just assume everything is perfect because the system, let's say if they show me the CV 001 custom name, or let's say 004, which is the passport. But the candidate, instead of sending the passport, they send a picture of them on holiday in Ibiza 2 weeks ago. The system does not differentiate because as long as it was put into 005 and it's supposed to be but they send you something else. It doesn't know there's something else. And that's where the HR comes in, the human involvement comes in, and just checking that everything actually makes sense and everything is correct. Final checks. Same way for a Tesla. If you drove a Tesla, you squeeze the steering wheel here and there, and then it re-engages every like 2 minutes, 2, 3, 4 minutes or whatever. Same. Now, the before and after. Well, this is a roughly overview, but it's the same thing. As I said, manual, you're chasing documents by email, then you read it a bunch of spreadsheets. Excel is fine, but a custom dashboard is better. 100% better. And once you go there, you don't want to come back. It shaves a bunch of time. And if you're able to shave a bunch of time, you can focus on what actually drives the needle even more. Like sending out references and then spending like 20 minutes to be able to send a reference does not drive the needle as much as filter it for candidates and then see who actually has experience. They can be hired fast. Like ideally, all these visa and immigration nonsense, you want to hire people that already like fully, they don't need to apply for sponsorship. They perhaps have a British passport. It's way easier. Just put in the passport license and then boom, that's it. So those activities actually drive the needle even more. Now, why does this matter, especially in care? So as I was saying at the start of the video, so if you are in the industry or you're simply in that Google's phase of trying to make money online, all the gurus will tell you, sell the automation to this niche, sell the automation to that niche. And as I said before, they're not wrong, but take their advice with a pinch of salt and then apply it somewhere where you know it actually is. And the reason why you will never want to sell marketing to a care agency is because marketing does not bother them as much as compliance. This is an industry with strong compliance, the regulated industry. And every care director or every registered manager knows that all it takes is simply one mistake to mess everything up. You know, one to mess everything up. With one mistake, you can get bad rating on CQC, you can have issues with home office, you can have issues with health and safety, you can get your sponsorship license. A bunch of stuff can happen just because of a small mistake. And most of the time it comes in at a hiring level. Of course, there's mistakes that happen even after hiring. Fine. But at the hiring level is the most important because your carers are the source of income. Without carers, you're not able to deliver services. So council or NHS or whoever's paying you will never pay you right. So you want to hire. You know, hire slow and then fire quickly. It's true. You want to hire slow. But if you see anything that's going on with it, you want to fire quickly. Bad apples. What do they say? Bad apples rot all the other apples in it. Yeah, I'm trying to be philosophical, but I know you guys understand. Especially if you're if you're the director, register manager, HR, compliance, and anything in this, you know what I'm talking about. All you need is just one mess up. And then they come in, they ask you for the records. They'll be like, oh, she was in the field, but she didn't have a DVS in place. So she was in the field, she didn't do her administration training, and actually administrated to double the dose of what the services are needed. It's over. It's over. And that's where your leverage is. If you're reaching out to care agencies, your leverage is understanding the industry and then telling them, this is how another business next to you was shut down because of this. And this is why this automation will help you out. It makes checking faster, better compliance, better everything. This is your unique selling point. If you go back and you say, I'm trying to sell your website, why did I need a website for my friend? You're not understanding. So take the advice, see what's working, what the gurus are telling you, and then apply for the industry that actually makes sense. One of those local industries. I'm putting you a game. So if you end up being a millionaire, thanks to my advice, nothing major. I just want 10% cut. You know, for me to buy some chicken and chips. Next. And this is the funny side of the video. You know, I'm a sales guy, so I keep my things extremely straightforward. This is the part where I'm actually selling. Because this video, as of everything, is not for charity. I'm not a philanthropist. No. So if you're here looking at this and you are any of these, care company owner, you're the director, the register manager, you work in HR, not just domiciliary. Domiciliary can be supported living, complex, any. Or agencies scaling up, agencies that provide carers to care companies. It's fine. If this applies to you, here I am. As I said, I'm not able to show the system because there's live data on it. But in the next videos, I'll actually make it duplicate, create it on a different portal, put in some dummy, and then we'll see how that works out. And if you need this, the man himself, I know it's very hard to sell unless you know. As I always say, you can tell that somebody knows what they're talking about by simply listening to what they're talking about. I've seen this industry. The amount of money is crazy. But at the same time, if you're responsible, you're always at the edge of the cliff. Because it takes just one bad hire to mess up an empire that was built up. And most of the time, it's not even intentional. It's simply just small things that slipping through the cracks. For example, they signed in a contract, however, the reference came like 5 days after, but you'd have no records of risk assessment. Or they signed in the contract, however, they didn't finish the training in place, and then they messed up in the first week, but the training was not in place. You know, about the timing. It wasn't even intentional. It's simply small things slipping through the cracks because the manual onboarding, that's where everything that is done manually, even like data capturing in finance, data capturing. If I'm moving my data from QuickBooks and I transfer it directly to Excel, I know there won't be any mess because QuickBooks talks directly and it gives me the spreadsheet to Excel. But if I'm doing it manually from QuickBooks, then I take the figure. We spent 249 grand on a G-Wagon, actually 249,387.87p. And I mess up the last 87p into 88p, my numbers will never balance. And I'll be looking at where is that 1p coming from? Because it's manual. But if it's done automatically, boom, bam, hiring. The principle is the same. So this is the end of the video. I believe I all the factors I wanted to address. I hope you guys liked my presentation. And then one of the following days, we'll actually go through the automation and see how that can be helpful for you. And if you like this video, if it applies for you, you want to know how we can do this for you. Well, I say we, but it's how I recreate this custom system for you. And it doesn't just stop into care industry, really and truly. Because the hiring process is fairly the same for different industries, but the level of compliance differs depending on if you're regulated or not. Like even system can be implemented even for the warehouse company, for a law firm company, for the medical company, for anything company. If you sell flowers, you're a florist and you need to hire a bunch of people experienced with scissors to cut it, whatever. It can be implemented too. If you love that and you're interested, as I said here, comment, automate, and then I'll reach out to you. If not, my social handles are somewhere in my profile. You can reach out on LinkedIn if you're more savvy. Or if you're young like me, you're making a bunch of money and you need to whatever, you can just reach out on IG. Shoot me a DM, as we say, and then we can work from there. Me,